Just imagine this scenario for a second. You get into your car early in the morning. The sky is still dim, and the cup of coffee in your hand is still steaming. You plug in the charger, and exactly 5 minutes later, the battery gauge jumps to completely full. Not 30 minutes, not an hour, 5 minutes. You drive away, and you do not need to stop and charge again, even if you are driving straight from Los Angeles to Seattle. That is more than 1,100 miles without a single stop. Sounds entirely like science fiction, right? Well, that is exactly what most of the world still thought, at least until a few weeks ago. For years, experts believed that solid-state batteries, the technology universally called the holy grail of the electric vehicle industry, were still at least a full decade away from mass production. Every single year, analysts pushed the timeline further away from 2030 to 2035, and the industry simply learned not to trust the big claims anymore. But then, Toyota finally spoke. They didn't do it through a flashy launch event with lasers or a live stream watched by millions. It was just a highly classified, closed-door meeting in Toyota City, Japan, with a few dozen senior executives, selected investors, and engineers who had spent an entire decade working in total silence. There was no performance, just raw numbers. And those numbers absolutely froze the entire global auto industry. We are talking about 1,200 miles on a single charge. A full charge in under 5 minutes. No cobalt, no nickel, and absolutely zero dependence on highly unstable geopolitical supply chains. Most importantly, this is not a laboratory prototype. This battery has already been tested on real roads across 4 continents. Within 72 hours of this information leaking, more than $46 billion was violently wiped from the market value of traditional automakers and rival battery manufacturers. The biggest corporations in America and Europe quietly called emergency boardroom meetings. The question is no longer whether solid-state batteries are possible. The question now is, how did Toyota pull this off without anyone seeing it coming? To truly understand why Toyota's silent announcement caused such a massive, terrifying earthquake across the market, we need to look at the invisible trap the industry has been stuck inside for 30 years. Let's call it the lithium cage. In 1991, Sony introduced the very first commercial lithium-ion battery, and it was viewed as an absolute miracle. Within a decade, it powered our laptops, our phones, and eventually massive electric vehicles. Giant gigafactories were constructed, and an ecosystem worth hundreds of billions of dollars was built around this single chemistry. But lithium-ion has severe, hard limits, and they are starting to show. First is the weight problem. The best lithium-ion batteries today store about 250 watt-hours per kilogram. In the real world, this means for an electric car to travel just 300 miles, you need a massive battery pack weighing over 1,000 pounds. Second is the charging nightmare. Even utilizing the absolute best fast charging stations available today, you still need 20 to 30 minutes just to charge from 20% to 80%, and that is only under perfect weather conditions. Compare that to a 3-minute gasoline refill, and you have a massive psychological barrier for consumers. Third, and most concerning, is the extreme fire risk. Lithium-ion uses a liquid electrolyte that is highly flammable. If the battery is damaged in a crash, it can trigger a terrifying chain reaction called thermal runaway. This creates a chemical fire that is almost impossible to extinguish with normal water, completely burning down a vehicle in minutes. Finally, there is the supply chain nightmare. The vital components of these batteries, like cobalt and nickel, are mined in incredibly unstable geopolitical regions, often under horrific human rights conditions. The entire EV industry has been desperately trying to escape this lithium cage for decades. Nobody knew where the key was, until Toyota revealed what they had been building in the dark. For years, the electric vehicle world looked at Toyota with heavy skepticism, and sometimes even genuine pity. While Tesla was stunning the globe with the Model 3, and Ford was pouring tens of billions into new battery plants, Toyota seemed to be stubbornly watching from the sidelines, still pushing standard hybrids and claiming pure EVs weren't ready. Analysts openly mocked them as an aging giant refusing to adapt. But that wasn't stubbornness. It was brilliant camouflage. While the spotlight was blinding everyone else, Toyota was quietly funding one of the largest, most secretive battery research programs in automotive history. Their goal was never to make lithium-ion slightly better. Their goal was to murder it completely. The technology they bet everything on was the solid-state battery. The core idea is simple. If you replace the highly flammable liquid inside a battery with a solid material, you immediately eliminate the risk of explosions while drastically increasing range and charging speed. The theory is beautiful, but the reality is a nightmare. The fatal flaw with solid-state has always been the atomic level expansion. When the battery charges, the materials expand and contract, causing tiny microscopic cracks that eventually kill the battery after just a few hundred cycles. Dozens of massive companies have spent 20 years failing to solve this specific problem. Toyota didn't try to fix the old materials. They invented an entirely new one. They developed a highly proprietary ceramic polymer matrix, a material that can withstand thousands of expansion cycles without ever cracking or degrading. On top of that, they utilized a graphene-infused anode. Traditional batteries grow tiny metal branches called dendrites over time, which cause short circuits and fires. Toyota's new graphene technology almost completely eradicates dendrites. The result? These cells endured over 2,500 full charge cycles while losing less than 8% of their capacity. That means your car could travel over 1 million miles before you ever notice a drop in range. But building a super battery creates a massive new problem. How do you push that much electricity into a car in 5 minutes without completely melting the national power grid? Because Toyota's new battery runs incredibly cool, it can accept massive amounts of power without taking damage. They developed a system called Hypercharge 55, delivering a staggering 2.2 megawatts of power. To put that into perspective, Tesla's V3 superchargers peak at about 250 kilowatts. Toyota's system is up to 9 times more powerful, allowing a car to charge from 0 to full in the time it takes to use a restroom. But if hundreds of cars plug into 2.2 megawatt stations simultaneously, city power grids would collapse. Toyota's incredibly elegant solution is to pair every single hypercharge station with its own massive, independent solid-state storage unit. These on-site units slowly and quietly pull power from the grid all day long. When a car plugs in, the massive surge of electricity comes from the station's storage unit, not the city grid. The grid never even feels the spike. Furthermore, when they subjected these new batteries to severe crash testing and punctured them, they didn't catch fire. They didn't explode. They simply sat there, perfectly intact. Toyota has literally engineered the risk of thermal runaway out of existence. However, a miracle technology means absolutely nothing if it costs $1 million and you can't mass produce it. And this is where Toyota's story becomes truly terrifying for the competition. Right now, hidden inside the Motomachi plant in Japan, 2 highly automated solid-state production lines are already fully operational. Not a small pilot program, they are currently running, producing 250,000 battery packs per year with a staggering 91% yield rate. To achieve this, ultra-thin ceramic sheets are handled by high-speed robots inside completely sealed, moisture-free environments, monitored by AI quality control systems. Human error is effectively 0, and production speed has doubled. Meanwhile, they are building a massive gigafactory in Thailand from scratch, designed solely for global solid-state production. And the vehicle chosen to carry this revolution already has a name: the Toyota X1. This isn't a luxury supercar for the elite. It is a ground-up design targeting a starting price under $30,000. With 1,200 miles of range and a 5-minute charge time, Toyota internally expects the X1 to absolutely shatter sales records and become the best-selling model in the company's entire history. The global battery war has suddenly shifted into overdrive, and Toyota's rivals are deeply panicking. In China, CATL, the company that currently controls 37% of the global EV battery market, is racing to develop its own solid-state tech by 2027. But CATL is still heavily relying on old materials like nickel and cobalt, tying them to the same messy supply chains Toyota just completely bypassed. In the United States, hyped-up startups like QuantumScape have repeatedly missed their timelines, watching their stock prices plummet. But the most desperate situation belongs to legacy automakers like Ford and General Motors. They have already committed tens of billions of dollars to building massive lithium-ion battery plants. If Toyota successfully floods the market with cheap solid-state cars, those American megafactories could become hopelessly outdated, stranded assets before they even reach full capacity. That is exactly why the initial reaction from Detroit wasn't a loud press release. It was pure, terrifying silence, followed immediately by emergency boardroom meetings. But we have to look at the reality of this situation because if something sounds too good to be true, there is usually a catch. The EV industry is notorious for massive promises that inevitably collapse under the weight of real-world manufacturing. First, that magical 1,200-mile range was achieved under highly controlled testing conditions. In the real world, dealing with freezing weather, highway speeds, and blasting the air conditioning, that number will likely drop closer to 900 miles. Still revolutionary, but it's important to ground the hype. Second, while 250,000 battery packs a year sounds impressive, Toyota sells over 10 million cars annually. Scaling this exotic ceramic technology to a global level will take years and could face severe supply chain bottlenecks. Finally, the $30,000 price tag for the X1 is currently an internal leak, not an ironclad guarantee. Making ceramic electrolytes is currently vastly more expensive than liquid ones, and we have to trust that Toyota's automation will actually drive those costs down as promised. But even with these hurdles, the nature of the entire global race has permanently changed. The question is no longer, is solid state possible? The question is, who will completely dominate the market when it arrives? Toyota spent a decade letting the world think they were losing, only to silently rewrite the rules of the entire game. If they pull this off, they won't just be a car company anymore. They will become one of the most powerful energy suppliers on the planet. What do you think? Has Toyota truly cracked the code? Or is this just another massive wave of battery hype? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned, because the true energy revolution is only just beginning.